a man with two faces, wolf genes, a girl who aged 50 years overnight. These rare human mutations are real and mind-blowing. Sarah Atwell was just a regular kid growing up in Nova Scotia, Canada, until one side of her face started to change. Slowly, it began to swell. At first, people thought it was just a minor condition, something that would fade with time. But it didn't. The swelling continued, stretching the skin and distorting her features. The reason? A rare genetic disorder called neurofibromatosis type 1, or NF1. This condition affects about 1 in 3,000 people and causes tumors to grow along nerves anywhere in the body, even the face. In Sarah's case, the tumor settled on one side of her face, making it appear dramatically different from the other. As she grew older, the asymmetry became more noticeable. She was bullied at school and called cruel names, but instead of hiding, Sarah chose to speak out. When she was a teenager, she posted a video sharing her story. It quickly went viral, gaining support from people all over the world. Her bravery stood out, not just because of her condition, but because of how she handled it, with strength and honesty. Ali Hussein wasn't even in high school, but his body had aged far beyond his years. He had one of the rarest genetic conditions on the planet, progeria, a disorder that causes the body to age up to 8 times faster than normal. Wrinkled skin, thinning hair, joint pain. These symptoms might be expected in someone over 90, but Ali was living through them as a child. What made his case even more unusual is that 6 of his siblings had also been born with the same condition, and he survived longer than any of them. Scientists estimate progeria affects only around 1 in 20 million people. It's caused by a mutation in the LMNA gene, which disrupts the normal structure of cells, especially in skin and blood vessels. Though his appearance drew attention, Ali was sharp, social, and deeply curious about the world. He never let the stares define him. His life raised awareness about an incredibly rare disorder, and helped push for research into treatments that are now giving hope to other children with the same condition. Long before modern medical imaging, there was George Lippert, a man who stunned 19th century Europe and America with a physical anomaly that's still baffling today. He was born in Germany with 3 fully formed legs. The third leg extended from his hip and, though not functional, had bones, a foot, and toes just like the others. But the surprises didn't end there. After his death, an autopsy revealed George also had 2 hearts, one of the rarest documented anatomical conditions in history. Most experts believe he absorbed a parasitic twin during early development in the womb. That twin's leg and heart became part of his body. Today, this would be detected before birth, but in George's time, it made him a medical wonder, and a popular circus attraction. He toured with Barnum and Bailey and others, drawing crowds wherever he went. Despite the attention, George was known to be modest and thoughtful. He wasn't a trick, or a gimmick. He was a real person with one of the most extraordinary bodies ever recorded. Tom Staniford doesn't look like most athletes. In fact, he doesn't look like most people at all. He was born with a rare condition known as MDP syndrome, a genetic disorder so uncommon that fewer than a dozen people have ever been diagnosed with it. What makes MDP so striking is how it affects the body. Tom has almost 0 fat under his skin. His face is angular, his limbs are thin, and he has no visible fat anywhere, even though he's a competitive cyclist. He wasn't diagnosed until adulthood after years of confusion. MDP doesn't just impact fat, it also affects hearing, metabolism, insulin response, and bone density. Tom's condition gives him a completely unique look, and although his appearance turns heads, his focus is razor sharp. He's a champion athlete, pushing the limits of what a body like his can do. His case has become a valuable subject for medical studies, helping researchers understand fat metabolism and rare syndromes. Through it all, Tom remains driven, grounded, and quietly redefining what strength looks like. Rudy Santos, often called the Octoman in the Philippines, is one of the most extreme and visually striking cases of a parasitic twin ever documented. His condition includes an extra pair of arms, a leg-like structure, and even parts of a shoulder and head that never fully developed, all fused to his own body. These additional limbs are not functional, but they're visibly attached to his abdomen and lower back, making him look like he has 2 torsos merged into one. Parasitic twins are incredibly rare. Most such cases are identified in infancy and surgically separated. But Rudy, born in the 1950s, grew up in a poor neighborhood where surgery wasn't an option. Instead, he joined traveling sideshows during the 1970s and 80s to earn a living, drawing huge crowds who had never seen anything like him. Despite decades of being treated as a human curiosity, Rudy maintained a soft-spoken personality. He's turned down surgery even in recent years, saying the extra limbs are part of who he is. His story is more than a medical oddity. It's a real look into how one person lived with something that the rest of the world could barely comprehend. José Mestra's face told a story that science struggled to explain. Born in Portugal, he began to show signs of an arteriovenous malformation, an AVM, during childhood. This rare condition causes blood vessels to form tangled clusters that grow uncontrollably. In José's case, the AVM began on his lips and chin, but over the decades it expanded until it took over almost his entire lower face. By adulthood, he had what many believe to be the largest facial AVM ever recorded, around 12 pounds of vascular tissue. The mass obscured one eye, distorted his mouth, and affected his breathing and speech. For years, José refused medical intervention, partly due to religious beliefs, but also because surgery at the time was considered incredibly risky. Still, he lived a full adult life, navigating city streets, dealing with curious stares, and refusing to hide. Later he traveled to the UK for a series of delicate surgeries which dramatically improved his condition. His resilience helped bring global attention to AVMs, a condition that's still largely unknown to the public, despite how severely it can affect lives. The story of Edward Mordrake is a mix of eerie medical curiosity and Gothic folklore, but it's based on medical descriptions that have echoed through history. Born into nobility in 19th century England, Mordrake was said to have a second face on the back of his head. This wasn't just a malformed bump, it reportedly had functioning eyes and a mouth. It couldn't speak or eat, but according to period writings, it could smile, grimace, and even cry. Some accounts claimed it whispered to Edward at night, driving him into isolation. The tale became famous after it was included in medical journals and popularized in weird history books. Though no photographic proof exists, the condition might be explained by craniofacial duplication, also known as diprosopis, a real and extremely rare disorder, where parts of the face are duplicated. Today, cases of facial duplication are often caught with prenatal scans, but back then, they were seen as otherworldly. Mordrake's story, whether fully accurate or part myth, has inspired TV shows, novels, and music. It endures because it taps into a timeless fear, the idea of a second self, forever present and impossible to escape. Nguyen Thi Phuong was just 26 years old when her face began to change, rapidly. Within a matter of weeks, her youthful appearance seemed to vanish. Deep lines formed, her skin sagged, and her features began to resemble those of someone 3 times her age. People were stunned, and doctors were baffled. In photos taken just months apart, it looked like Nguyen had aged 50 years overnight. For years, the cause of her condition remained a mystery. Some believed it was a rare allergic reaction to seafood or medication. Others suspected a form of lipodystrophy, a disorder that affects fat distribution and can lead to premature aging of the skin. What made Nguyen's story go viral was not just the dramatic transformation, but how sudden and isolated it was. Her body remained young and healthy, but her face told a different story. Medical professionals from around the world weighed in, but there was no clear answer. Nguyen's case is still one of the most mysterious rapid aging transformations ever photographed, and it remains an open question in dermatology and genetic research. Mandy Sellers was born with a rare condition that made her legs grow uncontrollably, but no one could explain why. For most of her life, doctors believed she had Proteus syndrome, the same condition that might have affected Joseph Merrick, the elephant man I'll tell you about later. But later, DNA testing revealed something even more specific, a mutation in the PIK3CA gene, leading to a disorder called PROS, PIK3CA-related overgrowth spectrum. Her upper body is petite, but her legs are massive, with her left leg once weighing more than 90 pounds. Mandy has undergone multiple surgeries, including a leg amputation, but the remaining tissue continued to grow afterward. What makes her story even more fascinating is her determination. Mandy never let her condition keep her homebound. She drives, travels, and lives independently. She's been featured in several documentaries not for shock value, but because her case is medically unique and still not fully understood. Researchers continue to study her DNA to better understand overgrowth conditions, hoping it might lead to treatments for others living with similar but less visible forms of genetic mutations. Abigail and Brittany Hensel are among the rarest twins alive today. Born in 1990 in Minnesota, the sisters are dicephalic parapagus twins. They share one body but have 2 separate heads and brains. This type of conjoined twinning is so rare that very few survive infancy, yet Abigail and Brittany not only survived, they've thrived. Each controls one side of their shared body. Brittany manages the left side, Abigail controls the right. That includes walking, running, swimming, and even driving, something they had to master together with perfect coordination. Their internal organs are a mix. They have 2 hearts, 2 spines, 2 stomachs, but share most of their lower body systems. What makes their story so unique isn't just the biology but how completely they've adapted to it. They graduated college, became teachers, and lead a surprisingly typical adult life. In interviews they're clear, they don't want to be seen as a medical curiosity. They're just 2 people who happen to live in one body. Their story continues to reshape how the world sees physical difference, not as limitation, but as one of the most extraordinary forms of cooperation. In a rural village in India, something extraordinary happened. In 2008, a baby girl named Lali Singh was born with a rare condition called craniofacial duplication, or diprosopis. Her head had 2 faces, 2 pairs of eyes, 2 noses, and 2 mouths that shared one skull. Despite how rare this mutation is, only a handful of cases have ever been recorded. Lali breathed, blinked, and even drank milk from both mouths. Her arrival stunned doctors and amazed locals, many of whom believed she was a reincarnation of a Hindu goddess. Pilgrims came from across the country to see her. While the condition is often fatal shortly after birth, Lali lived for a few weeks, and, during that time, was lovingly cared for by her family. Medically, diprosopis is caused by abnormal protein signaling during early development, leading the face to partially duplicate. It's different from conjoined twins. This is a single body and brain with duplicate facial features. Lali's story caught global attention not just for how unusual it was, but because it touched on something deeper, how we react to the completely unexpected, and how love and respect can exist alongside medical mystery. Few stories in medical history are as haunting and misunderstood as that of Joseph Merrick, known to the world as the Elephant Man. Born in Leicester, England in 1862, Joseph appeared healthy at birth, but by the age of 5 his skin began thickening and strange bony growths started to form on his limbs and skull. As he grew, his body took on extreme asymmetries. His right arm became unusable, his head enlarged, and his face distorted with layers of hardened tissue. For years, his condition was thought to be neurofibromatosis, but more recent studies suggest Proteus syndrome, a disorder that causes skin, bone, and tissue to grow uncontrollably. Despite being put on display in freak shows during the Victorian era, Joseph was deeply intelligent, well-mannered, and kind. He eventually found refuge at London Hospital, where he lived under medical care and even entertained visits from royalty. His skeleton is still preserved for medical research. Joseph's story isn't just about a rare disorder, it's about how society sees those who look different. He's remembered today not for his appearance but for his dignity, humor, and humanity in the face of relentless judgment. This old black and white photograph shows a shirtless man, or possibly more than one, blending into each other in a way that seems almost too strange to be real. Some believe it's a trick of early photography. Others claim it's a condition medically known as diprosopis, where parts of the face are duplicated during fetal development. But there's another theory that hits a little closer to science. A few researchers have suggested this could have been a rare presentation of chimera syndrome, a mutation and condition where 2 embryos merge in the womb, resulting in one person carrying 2 sets of DNA. It can sometimes lead to subtle asymmetries or in the most extreme cases visible anatomical duplication. Jesus Chui Aceves doesn't need special effects or Hollywood makeup to look like a character out of a fantasy film. His face is covered entirely in thick, dark hair. Born in Mexico, Chi is one of only a few dozen people in recorded history diagnosed with hypertrichosis universalis, a condition that causes excessive hair growth all over the body, including the face and forehead. Sometimes called werewolf syndrome, it's so rare that it's estimated to occur in fewer than 1 in a billion people. Chi isn't the only one in his family with the condition. More than 30 of his relatives across generations have shown similar symptoms, making his lineage one of the most unique cases ever studied by medical researchers. Despite the attention his appearance brings, Choi has lived a remarkably normal life. He's worked in circuses, appeared in documentaries, and even starred in television programs that explore the genetics behind his condition. Unlike the mythical werewolves of pop culture, Chui's hair is not dangerous, it's just different. Scientists believe the root cause lies in an ancient gene that was likely switched off during evolution but somehow switched back on in individuals like Chi. While some might hide from the world, Choi embraced it, using his condition not for shock, but to educate. He reminds people that being rare doesn't mean being less, it means being 1 in a billion, literally. When Nong Yuhui's parents brought him to the doctor in southern China, they weren't concerned about his eyesight, they were concerned about his eyes themselves. Nong was born with pale blue-gray irises, an extremely unusual trait in a country where nearly everyone has dark eyes. But that wasn't the only thing that stood out. In the dark, his eyes would glow, not just reflect, but emit a greenish shine, just like a cat's. Local doctors believed he might have something resembling a tapetum lucidum, a reflective layer behind the retina that gives nocturnal animals their night vision. Humans aren't supposed to have this at all. Tests showed that Nong could read and write in near-complete darkness, far beyond the limits of what typical human eyes can handle. His condition remains unexplained. Some researchers think it's a unique mutation affecting the light sensitivity of his retina. Others suspect a rare variation of ocular albinism. Whatever the reason, no one has documented another case quite like Nong's. Videos of him quickly spread online, sparking interest and debate. Though skeptics remain, the footage and medical evaluations appear legitimate. Nong doesn't consider himself unusual, he's just a kid who happens to see the world in a different light, even when the lights are off. Gabrielle Williams, known affectionately as Gabby, was born in the United States looking like a healthy baby. But as the years passed, something strange became clear. She wasn't growing like other kids. At age 9, she still looked like a toddler. As a teenager, she was the size of a newborn. Her bones, skin, and even internal organs had barely aged at all. Doctors were stunned. Gabby was diagnosed with a still unnamed condition that dramatically slows physical development. In fact, it's believed she may have what researchers call Syndrome X, a suspected genetic mutation that essentially halts the biological clock. What makes Gabby's case even more fascinating is that her condition isn't just rare, it may be unique. Only a handful of similar cases have been reported, and none with such extreme effects. Scientists studying her DNA hoped it might unlock secrets about human aging itself, and even point toward future breakthroughs in age-related diseases. Gabby requires full-time care and can't speak, but her presence has become a major talking point in genetic research and ethical debate. She challenges everything we think we know about time and the human body. While the world ages around her, Gabby exists almost frozen, living proof that biology still holds secrets science hasn't solved yet. Manar Majid's story is one of the rarest medical cases ever documented. Born in Egypt, Manar had a condition known as craniopagus parasiticus, a form of parasitic twinning where an undeveloped twin's head is attached to the top of a living child's skull. In Manar's case, the second head wasn't just tissue. It had a partially formed face, eyes, lips, and even the ability to blink and smile independently. While it had no brain of its own, it was neurologically connected to Manar, feeding off her blood supply and placing immense strain on her small body. Doctors were faced with a life-or-death decision. In a groundbreaking surgery, a team in Cairo worked for 13 hours to remove the parasitic head. It was a complex procedure, with risk at every turn, but they succeeded. The surgery drew attention from across the globe, and Manar became the face of a new chapter in pediatric neurosurgery. What made her case so rare wasn't just the visible nature of the condition, it was that she survived long enough for surgery at all. Craniopagus parasiticus has almost always been fatal in infancy. Though her life was short, her story had lasting impact. It showed the world just how far modern medicine can go when faced with the unimaginable, and how even the rarest lives can teach us something extraordinary. Michael Berryman's face is unforgettable, not because of makeup or prosthetics but because of a rare condition that shaped his look from birth. He has hypohidrotic ectodermal dysplasia, a genetic disorder that affects hair, teeth, nails, and sweat glands. Michael was born without hair, without fingernails, and with facial features that gave him an almost alien appearance. In Hollywood, where appearances are everything, he became a legend. You might recognize him from The Hills Have Eyes, Weird Science, or even Star Trek. His distinct look landed him roles in horror and science fiction, but off-screen, Michael is thoughtful, articulate, and deeply passionate about raising awareness for genetic conditions. What's remarkable about Michael is how he flipped the script. In an industry driven by image, he didn't just find work, he built a career by being himself. His condition is rare, affecting approximately 1 in 17,000 people, but very few have such an extreme presentation. He can't sweat, which means filming in hot conditions is dangerous, and yet he's continued to work, advocate, and show that uniqueness isn't something to hide, it's something to own. Michael Berryman isn't just an actor with a rare disorder, he's a reminder that standing out can be a superpower when the world expects you to fit in. John O. Lancaster was born with Treacher-Collins syndrome, a rare genetic condition that affects the bones and tissues of the face. For John O., this meant underdeveloped cheekbones, hearing loss, and a noticeably different facial structure. As a baby, he was given up for adoption just 36 hours after birth. Doctors weren't sure how long he'd live or how he would function in society, but what happened next is what makes his story so powerful. John O. grew up, embraced his differences, and became a global advocate, not just for Treacher-Collins, but for anyone who feels like they were born to stand out. The condition itself is extremely rare, affecting around 1 in 50,000 people, and varies widely from person to person. John O.'s case is visually striking, but it's his confidence and presence that make him unforgettable. He travels the world, giving talks in schools and medical conferences, sharing what it's like to live with a face that makes people stare, and how to stare back with pride. When Noah Wall was born in the UK, doctors didn't expect him to survive. A prenatal scan revealed he had just 2% of a brain. His skull was mostly filled with fluid, a result of spina bifida and hydrocephalus. His parents were told he'd likely never walk, talk, or think independently, but they refused to give up on him, and what happened next stunned everyone. Over the years, Noah's brain began to grow. MRI scans showed that from that original 2%, his brain expanded to over 80% of normal volume. Now, he walks with assistance, speaks clearly, and solves puzzles that even adults struggle with. His case challenges everything we thought we knew about brain development. Noah has become a medical marvel and a symbol of resilience, showing the brain's incredible ability to adapt. Scientists studying him hope his journey could help unlock new treatments for neurodevelopmental disorders. Noah didn't just survive, he rewrote the rules. That's about it. Which mutation scared you the most? Write in the comments. For more useful information, watch other videos.